Yeah.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to the Bundesliga show. Hope everyone's doing well this evening. The Bundesliga is back. Match day 1 has just been upon us over the weekend. So, really exciting start to have Bundesliga footy back. Mark, what do you reckon to it all? Bayern already won the league, or we still got time around?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit early to call that, but yeah, some really good games, a lot of goals. We've kind of come to get used to that with the Bundesliga, really, haven't we? I mean, there always are a lot of goals, a lot of good games. But yeah, some might say it was a little bit disappointing, the ease with which Bayern won the game. Obviously, we'll talk a bit more about that later. But yeah, I think in general, some good results, some good games in general, and yeah, good start to the season.
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously we're going to be doing our featured 4 tonight. So obviously the same sort of format as we did last season. What we're going to be doing differently, however, this season is we're going to be kind of mixing and matching our Monday night shows for as long as it stays on a Monday anyway. So this week we're doing featured 4. Then next week we'll be doing something different. So always keeping things fresh. So hopefully everyone will enjoy that. But tonight's show will be about the featured 4. So a bit more analytical and just kind of looking at the purity of the football rather than kind of a talking point section or anything like that. Of course, one other thing to add, all sorts of bits of admin. So obviously, please do say hello, join us in the chat for everyone that's watching. Like, comment, subscribe to the channel. Of course, this season we are again in partnership with Bundesliga boxes. So obviously, Bundesliga boxes are the only mystery box company who can provide you with a genuine shirt from Germany, like I'm wearing this evening, my Tasmania number, which I think you've got on as well, Mark.
Yeah, Viva Tasmania.
Yeah, from the Bundesliga down to regional Liga. So each monthly batch has got a shirt, a program, pin badge, stickers, all sorts of other items too. And they were voted the best mystery shirt company at the Kitzman Awards recently. So they are a brilliant company to work with. So we are indeed in partnership with them again this season. So we'll just bring up the scores beneath in the banner below, which you can see, and the goal scorers. We'll be going through our top 4, which we released on Twitter earlier. So we'll be going through that from 4th down to 1st in a sec. But quick shout out to some of the other games that stood out to you, Mark, and that haven't made the top 4. What would you say was your pick that maybe just narrowly missed out on our top 4?
Yeah, I think probably, Gladbach's win over Hoffenheim, like a lot of pressure going into, obviously, for Gladbach this season first game under Daniel Farke. They got off to a shocking start as well, actually, despite the fact that Posch was sent off for Hoffenheim. They actually went in front as well through Robert Skov with a pretty well-worked goal with the Kramaric assist, but then obviously a really, really good response, especially the overhead kick from Benzabaini, I thought was fantastic as well to get them level. I think obviously the game Wolfsburg-Bremen as well was an entertaining one. I think most people had that down as a Wolfsburg win. I had Wolfsburg as 5th place this season, but probably not the best start from them. Probably a little bit lucky to get a point in the end, really, in some ways, but probably a good start for both sides in some ways, with Werder getting the point away from home.
Yeah, absolutely agreed. I think the Sunday games were really good as well. Obviously, a good point for my boys against a kind of stacked RB Leipzig team. So, yeah, some really good games. We're going to go into the feature 4 in 1 second. But before we do that, we just thought we quickly go through any of the few of the big transfers that have been going through in recent days / week over the weekend, and just our thoughts and reaction to that probably. So first of all, Mark, the big swap deal between Leipzig and Hoffenheim is pretty much now gone through. So Raum obviously started for Leipzig at the weekend, and Angelino has gone the other way now. So Hoffenheim have announced that. Do you think? I mean, it seems like a good deal for both teams. I'd say like they both teams, will get good players that they'll be able to use as starting players going forwards, won't they?
Yeah, I think both are good players. I mean, Angelino didn't have probably his best season last year, but definitely a really good player for a team like Hoffenheim to get. He's still a coup in some ways, considering the fact that he was starting games for maybe not starting games, but he was in the periphery of the Man City team a few years ago, So Hoffenheim fans are going to look forward to seeing him. I mean, they'll be upset to lose Raum, but I still think that Angelino could potentially look better in the future, because, Raum had a great breakout season last year, but there's nothing to say that he's going to be world-class going forward. He could turn out to be a one-season wonder. You just don't know, I didn't think he had a great start on his debut against Stuttgart. I know he didn't have much time to settle in, but he looked a little bit rusty in that game, I thought. But yeah, I think in general, Leipzig will feel as though they've got an upgrade on Angelino, but I still think that Hoffenheim might still feel as though they might get the better deal in the long run with that one.
Yeah. And Leipzig been busy in the forward department, haven't they? We've been talking about this ourselves a little bit earlier on. So it looks like Timo Werner has been given the nod to return to Leipzig from Chelsea. Obviously, a move that didn't really work for him in the first place. So he'll be coming back to the Bundesliga and probably lighting things up for Leipzig, as well as again, these aren't confirmed deals, but it sounds like the young, another hot talent striker, Sesko, who plays for the sister club, RB Salzburg. Looks like he's going to be joining Leipzig in 2023. A man who's been linked with my English club, Man United, another target that they failed to deliver on. But anyhow, so yeah, what do you reckon to that, Mark? Leipzig really bolstering their attacking kind of a pack that they've got, and Silva, the main man who came in last season, might be slightly worried as to his place in the team.
Yeah, I think that was my big question, really. I mean, for me, I'm a big Andre Silva fan. I think he had a really good game as well against Stuttgart. I think he was the best player. What I like about Silva is the link-up play. I mean, he's got that kind of physical strength about him. But I mean, I think obviously it's come from nowhere, really. I think obviously, from what I can gather, it's actually come from the player that he's actually expressed desire to rejoin Leipzig. I mean, and obviously Leipzig, they're not going to turn down a striker that banged in like 30 plus goals last time he played in the Bundesliga. So, and I do believe, I mean, he's suited to the Bundesliga. I kind of thought he might join Dortmund, to be honest. I kind of predicted him before the season ended that he might be the replacement for Haaland, but yeah, he's obviously looks like he's going to end up at Leipzig. I mean, of course, he's a great signing. Like, his record in the Bundesliga speaks volumes, really. But my only worry about this signing is, could it lead to the end of Andre Silva's time? Because I'm not sure that Silva's going to be happy to play out wide, potentially, or maybe Werner. I wouldn't imagine either of them are going to want to play out wide. That's the problem. Both of them feel as though they're number nines. Both of them know they can score goals at this level, and I'm not sure whether Tedesco's going to be able to keep both players happy. That's my fear with this one. But I mean, whether Leipzig obviously maybe consider Werner as an upgrade on Silva, but I'm not fully sure, because I mean, Silva, we know, recently has banged in 25, 30 plus Bundesliga goals, whereas Werner did have a tricky time at Chelsea, let's be honest, and his confidence might be a little bit low at the moment. What do you think about that one? Do you think he could be a replacement or an upgrade, or what are they looking for there?
It's hard to say. Are they preparing for life eventually without Nkunku? So they just want to strengthen. They saw an opportunity to do a deal, and Werner will now stay put, probably because he's had his shot at the Premier League, so he probably won't fancy going back anywhere else for a long while. So I think, for this season, they'll come in, and what great squad depth that will be if they can hold on to their players. A couple of other quick transfers to mention. I think Anthony Modeste to BVB, which we mentioned in the fantasy draft show, didn't we? That we thought didn't make much sense, but it looks like that's going to happen. So I think he had his medical today, or he was pictured having his medical. So that will go through, and obviously that will give Dortmund another option whilst Haller is recovering. And of course, we wish him all the best, and hopefully he's playing very soon for them. Big blow for Köln as well, losing a player of that caliber and how well he played for them last season. But of course, he's aging. Quick fix for Dortmund, isn't it, really, Mark? Not much more to say on it. He'll give them that, that extra kind of physicality and height, and we all know what his strengths are, don't we?
Yeah, I think for the player, I can understand why he wants to do it. I mean, it's a chance to start in the Champions League. I would imagine he will be the starting striker as well for at least the next 2 or 3 months. I think the biggest losers in this one really are Cologne, as you say, because I just think, he was their starting striker, and I'm not quite sure what really Cologne have got out of this deal, in truth. I mean, I don't know. Obviously, the official details haven't been released yet, but yeah, I think Ballum in the comments there said, yeah, Cologne have Tigges, yeah, but obviously he didn't really score. I think he has potential, Tigges, that's for sure, but he didn't really score that many goals, let's be honest, for Dortmund. I mean, it's big boots to fill because he got 19 league goals last season, Modeste, and I'm not sure really what Cologne have really got out of this deal, in truth. But I think for Dortmund, it's a punt. I wouldn't imagine he's cost very much, if anything, really, because he is 34. I think he was out of contract. I would imagine we're looking at 1-2 million maximum, really. And obviously, I think they needed a striker. And I think for the player and for Dortmund, it's a decent deal. But I think Köln are the big losers for me in this deal.
Yeah, indeed. We'll see as time goes on. We'll come back to your question, Ballum, about Leipzig and Dortmund winning the league in a moment. But without further delay, let's not whistle too long about the transfers, because we want to get in depth about these games that we're going to be covering. So we'll start in reverse order, Mark. So do you want to lead us off with our first game of this season from our featured four?
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously counting down the four, we're going to start with the fourth place game, which was FC Augsburg 0, SC Freiburg 4. I mean, what can you say about this game, really? I mean, it's actually the second time in a row that Augsburg have kicked off the season with a 4-0 defeat as well, as they got smashed by Hoffenheim by the same scoreline last season at home as well. But yeah, I mean, actually the first half was, I would say Augsburg possibly even shaded it, really. I mean, obviously the big team news was the fact that the news, obviously all of the new signings started for Freiburg as well, with Doan, with Grigorovic, obviously lining up on his debut against his former club as well, ironically.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, obviously the other player being Ginter, who I think nobody's really surprised to see him start. Probably the big marquee signing, really, from Freiburg, signing from Gladbach. But yeah, the first half was actually, the underdogs, kind of the eternal underdogs, really, Augsburg. That man, Daniel Caligiuri, knocked a few efforts just wide. A good dipping effort halfway through the first half went just wide. I think Freiburg, they had a couple of little, efforts, but not really much in the first half. But Rory, the second half, what happened for both sides, really? It just went from bad to worse for Augsburg and better for Freiburg, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. Yeah, really strong start to the second half, and before Augsburg fans had come back from their from their drinks breaks at half time or anything else like that, their team were 2-0 down. So first of all, the sucker punch of Grigorovic getting his goal against his old club. So nice bit of play from the fullback, actually, Siladia. He won the ball quite bravely, stuck his head in there, piled on down the right hand side and put in a good ball. And it was actually a good header, to be fair, from the striker who got his goal. So that's 1-0 after basically the first minute of the second half. And then Grifo just doing what the Italian stallion does best, whipping in free kicks. This one went obviously from the right hand side all the way into the far left hand corner, curling outwards. So it's quite some skill to have managed to have done that directly. Do we maybe think that Gikiewicz could have done slightly better? But it was hit at quite a lot of pace. So yeah, it was a great free kick, and then all of a sudden the home side are really up against it in the second half. And yeah, Freiburg went from strength to strength, didn't they? So another new signing got himself an opening goal. Ginter with like a half volley slice from a Grigorovic header / assist, so an assist and a goal against his old club. So it was a really good finish by Ginter. So that was his debut goal again against Augsburg when he scored against them as an 18-year-old for Freiburg. So it's a nice symmetry there for Ginter coming back. And he had a lot of different options, I think, with regards to making this transfer. So I'm really glad that they did choose Freiburg in the end. And so yeah, 3-0. So yeah, Augsburg really struggling, and yeah, a bit of a messy spell led to another debutant getting himself a goal, and that's Ritzy Doan, who of course we saw doing really good stuff for Arminia Bielefeld and that was 4-0. And yeah, game over. But yeah, it was an interesting game because it was quite well. Augsburg came out of the blocks quite well in the first half, didn't they? But Freiburg's class, and you have to say that came to the fore in the end. And yeah, strong opening performance from them, and they look good. I think we've kind of said in the comments, do we maybe think Freiburg will push for top 4? We certainly had them up around there, didn't we, in our predictions, Mark?
Yeah. I think we went 5th in the end, didn't we?
Yeah, so can, if someone like Leverkusen's a bit more up and down, can Freiburg, do that? How will they manage in Europe this season, though, might be the counterbalance between that. But yeah, brilliant performance for them. And yeah, a worrying start for Augsburg, but it's nothing that their fans haven't seen before, I guess.
Yeah, I think obviously just a bit of a note on Augsburg as well. I mean, the fact that they have started the season with a new manager who maybe is seen as a little bit abstract as well. So I'll just tell you a little bit about him before we move on. So it's Enrico Maaßen, his name. Yeah, obviously they brought him in after spending 2 years in Borussia Dortmund's second team, actually, yeah. Obviously. So very much an obscure name, really, because I think they play in the Nordrhein-Westfalen Regionalliga. So, I think he's coming from quite far down, really, there, He did manage a couple of other local clubs as well, Rödinghausen and Docterson. Yeah, I mean, they're not exactly the most famous clubs, but, he finds himself in the hot seat at FC Augsburg. I think for me, the surprising team news as well is the fact that once again, we didn't see that man Pepe as well. Ricardo Pepe, obviously the massive 80 million euro signing in January, again coming off the bench. I mean, for me, I would like to see him start and give him a bit more effort. I mean, we saw Demirovic, who wasn't exactly prolific for Freiburg, was he? Start ahead of him, which, I mean, what's going on with that at all? They clearly don't rate him. I just think it's a case of they just don't rate the young guy at all. I mean, he came in from really, really big money, a good reputation in America, but it's just not worked out for him. And I'm really, really surprised to see that they've not started him, really, especially when a guy like Demirovic, who's not exactly got a great track record, has he, of scoring goals in the Bundesliga, starting ahead of him. I mean, that must be a bit of a blow for the young lad's confidence, really. But, as you say, we've seen Augsburg start slow before, but we've got to see maybe obviously they go away to Leverkusen next week, which is not easy at all. And, they've got to find a way to kick their season off, that's for sure. Agreed. Okay, so yeah, let's swiftly move on to the third game. And it is that game. It was the capital city derby, wasn't it, between Union Berlin and Hertha Berlin. And Hertha Berlin clocking up the 4th straight win in all competitions against their city rivals. Hertha, obviously, they beat them 3 times last season, twice in the league and once in the cup as well. And this was yet another very, very comfortable home win, really, for Union Berlin. I mean, I think probably, again, the big team news before we start was the fact that, as we mentioned, Awani did join Nottingham Forest, and his replacement, Jordan Sabachu, came in for 6 million euros from Young Boys Bern. He's actually an American centre forward as well, which I didn't know actually before yesterday. Yeah. But another American in the Bundesliga, and he started this game with a goal actually as well. Really, really nice ball coming in from the box. And to be honest, it kind of reminded me of a kind of Awani finish as well in some ways. Really, really neat header beyond the despairing dive of Christiansen, who obviously is going to be the starting keeper for Hertha Berlin this season after the departures of Schwolow and Lotka. But yeah, it was already 1-0 after about 31 minutes. I think Union just completely dominated that first half, didn't they? They looked good. Obviously, Yannick Haberer also making his debut as well. Looked very, very good in that midfield. I thought that some of the usual faces, Haraguchi, Trimmel back in the starting lineup as well. I think the other debutant was Diogo Leite, who they've signed on loan. He also looked solid at the back. So yeah, Union just comfortably taken into 1-0 at halftime through that goal from Sabacho, and then Rory. Second half was more of the same, mostly, wasn't it?
Yeah, more or less. Pretty good performances by Union. They're reliable players to keep on pulling out the stops, don't they? Obviously, the debutant keeper Christensen for Hertha, I think pulled off quite a lot of big saves in general, didn't he? Made a really good one from Ryerson in the first half and was busy throughout. But yeah, Geraldo Becker making the most of some good interchanging play from a short corner and was kind of played in. and slotted home from about 10 yards with a nice little finish after a really good pass to him for the assist. And then a couple of minutes later, unfortunately, they conceded again. This one was the one from the corner as Nocte steered in a Trimmel corner, of course, from Trimmel. Good header, but not a header with any great pace, but it was obviously really accurate to get past Christensen because he couldn't get there into the far corner. And yeah, it never looked like a great kind of deal of threat or kind of threat of a comeback, at least in the game from that point onwards from Hertha. Nice consolation goal scored by Luke Bacchio. So that's one thing to take forward for them, I guess, and kind of build on that. But yeah, comfortably beaten, I have to say. Not obviously the start to the season that Hertha would have wanted, and they've got a pretty tough start in general fixtures wise, I'm pretty sure. So that that will test the squad, and the players that they've brought in will have to go into the deep end and try and see what they're all about really after the shock loss in the cup as well. So not appeasing the fans straight away, unfortunately, but Union, doing what they're doing. Interesting to see from across the Bundesliga sphere of, experts and things like that, seeing that a lot of people are predicting Union to do a lot worse this season. I've even heard shouts of them coming in close to relegation, which I don't agree with. But yeah, they started off the season really well and a good start to clean up in the Berlin derby. Really like Becker up front, great energy and pace about him, and they kind of use that to their advantage in this game. And yeah, Jordan Pifuk, obviously Sabatiu, there's all this kind of thing about his name, but I think he's going by Jordan Pifuk this season. His Twitter name is Call Me Pifuk. So any confusion about that. So I think we will try and refer to him as Jordan Pifuk. He's just got Jordan on the back of his shirt, actually, interestingly enough, and it's all to do with his obviously with his heritage. I think his dad's side of it is the Sabatiu, and Pifuk, his mother's side, which has obviously got the US kind of linked to it. So hence he's used that part of the name and has become a US national player as well. So he's looked good so far. So I'm excited to see what he can do in an Union shirt. Be hard for him to fully replace what Awoniyi's done. But Union keep on plucking these players from nowhere. It seems, well, not from nowhere, but it looks like a pretty good signing so far. So yeah, a good day out for Union and Hertha. Yeah, they'll be tested over these next 3 to 4 games because the fixtures don't get any easier for them, I'm afraid.
Yeah, I think you've got to question some of those pundits' tips at times, haven't you, really? Because for me, I can see Union being closer to the Champions League places for me than the relegation. I don't even think they need to think for a day about relegation, in truth, Union. I think they've still got a quality side. Just the way they make signings is just absolutely brilliant. I think people are reading too much into the loss of Awoniyi. If you watch this game, I don't think they looked short of creating chances. They could have scored more goals easily on top of the 3 that they got. And against an admittedly, I'll be honest, a pretty poor Hertha side who I expect to. Obviously my tip was relegation this year for Hertha Berlin, and there was nothing I saw in that game that made me think that they won't go down this season, to be honest. But as for Union, I think we predicted them to be around about 8th or so, maybe a little bit lower because they've got Europa League. Relegation. Give me a break, seriously. No, I don't think them being anywhere near that, in truth,
The only thing that, worries me with Union is maybe the depth in terms of the quality that they got and their age profile, because they're quite an old team. But yeah, they don't worry me in terms of relegation, not in the slightest. And obviously they started the season really strongly by the looks of it. So yeah, not. And
also, even if you look at their bench, the likes of Pantovic, Leveling, Gieselman, all coming off the bench, so they do have some quality. And I admit they've not got the most strength in depth, but you can't imagine that from a team like Union. But in terms of their budget, I think they've got perfectly satisfactory strength in depth for me. And I think a top half finish would be another great finish for them. As for Hertha, it's just, for me, it's about staying up incredibly, despite all the money that they've spent. this season, anything short of anything above relegation would be a success for them, in my view.
Yeah, they brought in Jean-Paul Botius today on a free transfer. That's a signing that makes sense to me. So fair play, that's a decent signing, I think.
Yeah, that's the kind of signing they need to be making for the next month, because looking at that starting lineup, the likes of David Selke getting games again. I'm not a massive fan of him at all. I think Kempf has been dreadful since signing from Stuttgart. I'm going to be honest. I mean, he had an absolute horror show in this game. He was sliding all over the place, getting nowhere near Union attackers. And it's just, for me, as I say, if they finish 15th this year, they've had a good season. I'm going to be honest with you. And it's going to be another struggle for them this year, that's for sure. Okay, so let's move on to game number 2. I mean, this was an absolute classic for some of the right and some of the wrong reasons, I would say, in this game. FC Köln versus Schalke 04. Obviously, the big news, the fact that Schalke making their kind of, return to the Bundesliga after a year away under Frank Kramer as well. Obviously, he wasn't the man that led them to promotion. So some surprises, really, when they decided to replace the manager with Frank Kramer, who obviously pretty much got Bielefeld relegated last year. But I think obviously Kramer has shown quality at times in his time at Bielefeld, but obviously ultimately had to go down as a failure, really, I guess, because, he did get them relegated despite decent investment really at times last year. But as for this game, I thought they started absolutely brilliantly, didn't they? They started so well. And obviously they did have the ball in the back of the net as well through the new signing Yoshida, who absolutely leathered the ball into the back of the net from the miscleared corner. But for me, this was one of them. Obviously, it goes to VAR. For me, it should stand, because I just think, obviously, there is the Schalke player in between the last man and the goalkeeper of Köln. But for me, how can he get out of the way, really? Do you know what I mean? He can't get out of the way because obviously the ball is absolutely rocketed in. It's a long VAR check, and they look at this for ages. I'm thinking he's going to give it, but in the end, he doesn't, much to the delight of the Köln fans who, I think the German commentator said Glück for Schalke, for Köln, which basically means lucky Köln, and I think everybody said in the German commentary that, it was pretty fortunate for Cologne to get away with that one. What would you say, Rory? Do you think he was right to disallow that one, or do you think it was a bit hard on Schalke?
Just to clarify, as Yoshida is the man in the way of the shot. Salazar who hit it. I think tricky, isn't it? Because, like you say, how do you get out of the way of that, really, don't you? But by the letter of the law, if that's the technical definition of what offside is and interfering with the goalkeeper's line of sight, then it's the right decision. So harsh to say that, though, isn't it? But in terms of for being like purist of football, like what can you do? But the way we've been moaning a little bit in the last few weeks, I think we had this conversation about the offside rule and we want clarity on it and stuff like that. So if that's the ruling now, then fair enough, stick to the letter of the law, and you have to kind of police it that way. But there's going to be a lot of goals that are disallowed because players just naturally find themselves in those positions. So I think it was harsh, but by the letter of the law, I guess it's the right call. And then, which obviously leads us on to the other big talking point of the first half.
Yeah, I would agree. I don't think you can blame the rest, but I think it's the rules that are at fault there. Because as you say, for me, there's no way in a million years he's going to save that, even if obviously Yoshida isn't in the way. But it's the letter of the law speaks. And I think very, very unlucky for Schalke. And I think if that goal was allowed, we could have seen a very different result, to be honest, in this game. But this was after about 10 minutes, and then 25 minutes later, it got even worse for Schalke in terms of the refereeing decision when Dominic Drexler, obviously one of the big hopes for Schalke as well, the attacking midfielder / wide player for Schalke, was dismissed for a tackle. Again, when you first see this, you think, there's no way it can be a red card, really, when you first see it. But it's one of them, when it's slowed down, the foot does look high, and it does look like he takes a bit of a hack against a Köln player. But for me, I think this one was harsh. I'm going to be honest with you on the Schalke player. It looks worse when it's slowed down with the VAR, I'll be honest. But was it really a red card? For me, it's a no. I wouldn't have sent him off for this one. What would you have done, Rory? Do you think it was the right decision or not?
Friend of the show, Derek Ray, put this on Twitter. He basically kind of called it an orange card. Like he felt it was kind of like in between, which I guess is what you said, Mark. From when you look at it in slow mo, it looks quite nasty. But it's obviously kind of like a bit of an accident. Obviously, doesn't look like Drexler's trying to do that. To Jonas Hector. So yeah, I think it's harsh. I do think it's harsh, but when it's slowed down, it doesn't look good either. Schalke were dealt a harsh hand in that first half, and obviously that led to what happened in the second half, really, didn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for me, the goal was, I agree, to the letter of the law, it was right. But, in this case, in my opinion, the letter of the law should be changed, really, in that case. So I think that Schalke can be hard done by. As you say, the foul, I think in first halves, players usually get away with these ones, as referees like to be, in my opinion, they tend to be a bit more lenient in first halves, because to try and keep the game 11v11 as long as possible. So I think for me, in most games, that would be given as a yellow, to be honest. But obviously, the ref decided to send the Schalke man off, obviously Drexler. So Schalke just about hung on. And then, to be honest, it was like the Alamo, really, in the second half, wasn't it, from Köln? I mean, they just absolutely destroyed Schalke, I thought, Rory, in that second half.
Yeah, it was hard work for Schalke, obviously being a man down, and Köln played it really well, scoring some good goals in the process. Obviously, there was a nice kind of sliding in goal for Killian when he managed to get on the end of Hector's cross after a bit of neat interchanging that they worked from a short corner. So, like, working the space, using the extra man to their advantage. Second goal, obviously, is a bit unfortunate in regards to the goalkeeper, Schwalu, not covering himself in glory, the former Hertha man. So, yeah, a bit of a fumble in the box, which led to Thielemann almost scoring, which a couple of good blocks in there, but eventually Florian Kainz came in and smashed it in. I think this one was looked at as well at VAR, wasn't it?
They looked for a long time, yeah.
Yeah, for offside. That one again eventually stood. So yeah, no great flow to the game with these decisions, I guess. But on the face of it, I guess they've made a couple of tight calls. But yeah, then Schalke did get themselves back into it. Substitute Marius Butter headed in a near post free kick. So that was a nice glancing header, actually. With about 15 minutes to go, so you're thinking game on, can Schalke go all out, maybe nick a goal, make it 2-2 and get themselves a point on opening day, but that was quite quickly put to bed as Ljubicic made the most of a good Thielemann cross, and again a bit unlucky for the keeper Schwalu, because it did hit the post and then hit him and go in, so not a great day at the office for him. A mistake and then one bit of bad luck. Schalke can consider themselves unlucky for not having another goal, not being having a full complement of 11 players, and two very preventable goals, I guess, if luck's with you or if your goalkeeper holds on to the basic cross. On another day, could have been 1-1, 2-1 to Schalke, anything. But obviously maybe Köln, having to learn to play a slightly different way now. Obviously, Mark Uth was unavailable due to a groin injury, I think, and obviously Modeste was left out, for obvious reasons. Köln will have to quickly, adjust the way they play as a result. They did score a couple of, different type of goals, obviously with the low crossing, and obviously a good header by Ljubicic in the end. So other players will step up for them, I'm sure, but I can't envisage Köln's, level of football being able to be the same as what they did last season. So I do expect them to maybe drop a few places and be more of a mid-table sort of team. But yeah, a good strong start for them. They'll be absolutely loving it. Baumgart will no doubt get his players riled up for the entirety of the season. And Schalke, an encouraging start. And they'll, hopefully their luck will change in that regard going forwards, and they'll have a few better results, and I'm sure this season will be nothing like their disastrous season a few seasons ago. Much different squad as well, a lot more fresher, and yeah, obviously the manager Frank Kramer gets another chance with them as well. So it'll be very interesting to see how they go.
Yeah, I agree with you, Rory, on the fact that I definitely saw enough in Schalke to think that they don't look one of the worst sides in the division based on the first week. That's for sure. I think they do. It was just one of those days, wasn't it? They just got unlucky. It was as simple as that for me. I just don't think. Again, you can't really blame the rest. They just didn't get the rub of the green in this game. A lot went against them. As you say, Rory, even the third goal with Lubicic, it clatters off the post and then just hits poor Shvolov's legs when it's going in. It was just one of those days. Like 4 or 5 things went against Schalke in this game, and I don't think they'll be too disappointed with the performance. It was a difficult start against a Köln side who we know like to attack and play that kind of full energy football, but I guess in some ways they might see it as a missed opportunity with obviously Köln being a little bit weaker without Ut or Modeste, who were like probably the 2-star attackers last season, really. But yeah, Cologne will be happy they got off to a win, but they might have to, maybe Tigges could be the answer to replace Modeste potentially. But I wouldn't be surprised to see them bring another attacker in before the transfer deadline day, which is still about, I think, 2 or 3 weeks to go in that. Probably 3 weeks, actually, looking at the
they've
games.
got Adamian as well, who came on as a sub. I think he'll be a decent addition as well.
Yeah. And obviously Tigges is kind of a similar kind of striker to Modeste, obviously a bit more of a kind of target man, but whether he can get the kind of goals, that's the problem, I guess. Can he get the number of goals even close to what Modeste got last season? But yeah, again, I think both these sides will be, mid to lower mid-table, I would say. Maybe Schalke might be a few places down due to inexperience, but yeah, no, relatively good start for both sides, I would say. So yeah, let's move on to the game of the weekend, which was a bit of a strange one because I think most of us were building it up to be, like a massive game. Europa League champions against obviously Bundesliga champions who obviously started for the first time in, I think, about 8 seasons without Robert Lewandowski. Everyone was like, how are they going to cope? Obviously, they looked good in our watch along, didn't they, Rory, against Leipzig? So I think that kind of quietened a few doubters about this Bayern side this year. But I mean, if that game didn't quieten the doubters, then this game most definitely did, because, I think a lot of people were tipping maybe a draw in this game, even a shock Frankfurt win, but anything but really, wasn't it? I mean, we always say on this show, don't we, Rory, that, Bayern, they just love this kind of occasion. When people are doubting them, that's when they turn in the best performances. Let's just say they managed to do that in style in this game. It took only 5 minutes to open the scoring, and what a goal it was, too. I mean, a little bit of a soft free kick, probably about 30 yards out, wasn't it? I mean, probably Frankfurt wouldn't have been overly concerned. About 4.5 minutes on the clock. Kevin Trapp is just preparing his wall, probably expecting the ball to be swung in for maybe Mane or maybe someone else to try and get on the header. But no, that man, Joshua Kimmich, decides to go for the audacious, and he goes for like the swinging shot. Looks like it's going wide, but then beautifully curls in and kisses the post on the way to going into the back of the net, past the diving Trapp, who realizes he's messed up, really, doesn't he? He doesn't think there's any chance that Kimmich can go for the shot here. But for me, this is just a beautiful piece of play from a brilliant player. I think he only has probably like half a meter to aim for. Otherwise, it either goes wide or it's a comfortable save for Trapp. But he manages to get enough whip, enough pace, and enough direction to brilliantly guide it past Trapp. That's just the start that Bayern want. Within 5 minutes, they've already got a lead in this tricky away game. I'll be honest with you, Frankfurt were all over the place at this point, all over the place. I mean, obviously, defensively, they had problems this season, I'm going to be honest, because obviously Hinteregger left, shockingly retired at the end of last season, didn't he, which nobody expected. But Ilsanker, who, was on the periphery of the first team, he joined, I think, Genoa in Italy. So they were left with that man, Almami Toure, to replace Hinteregger, and he just didn't cover himself in any glory whatsoever in this game. just a few minutes later, it was 2-0 as well. And it was that man, Benjamin Pavard, who to me seems to be having a bit of a kind of renaissance in his Bayern Munich career, because he wasn't really rated for his first probably year or two at the club, but, had a decent season last year and started this season really, really well too. He kind of lashed home the loose ball really well, actually, under the dive of the defender to make it 2-0 after just 11 minutes. And then I think, Frankfurt came close a couple of times. They had a header off the underside of the bar, which, you could be saying if that one goes in, it's a different game, isn't it? Because we know that Frankfurt are a good attacking side. It just smashes the underside of the bar and goes out. Very unlucky. That was just a couple of minutes after Bayern's second as well. But then after a bit of a lull in the game, we did get the third goal. And it was that man, the Bundesliga debutant, Sadio Mane, who gets the third goal and pretty much kills the game. And it was Gnabry with the assist. I think for me, Gnabry was probably the man of the match in this game. I just thought it was absolutely brilliant. He supplied the cross, lovely little dinking cross into Mane, who just took the header past the diving trap. And that's 3-0 inside half an hour, Rory. And you're just thinking, I was watching this and just thinking, how does this happen time after time with Bayern,
Yeah, well, I mean, it was an Imperious start, wasn't it? They were so fluid, like they were in the Super Cup. They got forward really, really well, and they scored some really good team goals as well. But they were helped by the way that Frankfurt defended, like you say, Mark. They were very all over the place. There was gaps all over the shot, particularly down their left-hand side. Bayern got in a couple of times down there, and Gnabry and Muller and Musiala all made the most of that by either assisting or scoring goals. Some good cutbacks and a good interchanging play. Musiala was fantastic, gliding past players with ease, great feet. He was incredibly impressive. Mane obviously kind of completing their attacking plethora of players going forward so impressively. Obviously, they dropped off in the second half, but of course you would. You're 5-0 up. The game is long done. At least Frankfurt, put it in for the second half and didn't capitulate entirely. And got themselves a goal, albeit from a Neuer mistake, which can very easily happen with the way that he defends his goal and comes out. Musiala with the last say as well. So as we've kind of put as the headline of this show, Imperious start from Bayern. They look so strong. Like James in the comments asked the question, as we had from earlier on by Ballum, in terms of who's going to win the league, or are Bayern now a better team, which is what James has asked. Without Lewandowski, from a team perspective and getting the most out of everyone else around them, maybe because for Lewandowski to score the goals they did, of course, certain players have to make sacrifices or do a bit of extra hard work or something like that. Not saying that Lewandowski was a lazy player, because he wasn't. He scored all sorts of different types of goals. But maybe there's more of a freedom. Maybe there's not as much of a pressure on Nagelsmann now with regards to, having to always utilize Lewandowski because he was the hero. And it's just quite refreshing, actually, as much as we loved Lewandowski because he's such a big name, such a legend of Bayern and the Bundesliga. But it's just refreshing to see Bayern playing a different way. New players making their mark on the league. A new superstar, global superstar in the shape of Sadio Mane coming to the Bundesliga and plying his trade. So I think it's all really positive, really. And Bayern will still be an incredibly good team across the league, the cups and everything else like that. So they'll still be incredibly hard for Dortmund or Leipzig to get anywhere near them, I would say, this season. Lots of learnings for players for teams to do this season. Frankfurt will need to improve because we've tipped them to do quite well this season. We think they will. They've made a couple of decent signings. Defensively, they're really poor. And they'll have to improve because they've got Madrid on Wednesday, which nicely rolls into just a reminder that we, of course, are going to be doing a live watch along for that. So make sure you set some time aside Wednesday night to join us on YouTube Live, and we'll be doing a watch along for that game, Frankfurt versus Real Madrid in the UEFA Super Cup. Kickoff is 8 o'clock, so we'll be going live 5 minutes beforehand just to quickly look at the lineups. So yeah, really looking forward to that one. But yeah, I think Frankfurt will want to slightly tighten up, considering they've got Madrid as well. So yeah, very impressive start by Bayern though.
Yeah, I think maybe a few signings could be needed for Frankfurt as well, because I think really only Goetze has come in, and he didn't. To be honest with you, I'm still not overly convinced by the signing of Goetze, in all honesty. He didn't really convince me very much in this game, and he's got a lot to prove. I think that he's still good enough to play at a high level, really, in truth. Obviously, he has had bad luck with, like, conditions and things. I think he had that condition, didn't he, about that kind of hindered his career a little bit. But yeah, Bayern, the fluidity up front is literally scary. It really is. The 2 games, I've watched both games of theirs all the way through so far, and they've just been ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous in both games. I still think defensively you can still score goals against them. They do concede chances, that's for sure. But going forward, Mane, just the running that he does is just, the defenders don't know what to do. Literally, they don't know what to do when he's around. But yeah, just another point I wanted to mention as well. Nice comment as well. Disagreeing with us a little bit. We're happy to be disagreed with at times. Yeah, I'm so tired of the Hertha spent money. No, they didn't. Not this summer. Hertha won't go down. Schalke, Bremen, Köln, Augsburg and Bochum all were sides. Yeah, I think we did mention that. Yeah, this year they haven't spent as much money. I think only in Kangam they actually spent a fee on so far. I think obviously Boetius is for me, he's an improvement of a signing. I think he's the kind of guy they need to bring in more, a player that knows the Bundesliga, has done well in the Bundesliga for Mainz. And I think, yeah, he's a positive sign. I think they do have some good players in there. I think Luca Bacchio could potentially do well this season. No one will ever convince me on Davy Selke, I'll be honest with you. And there's a few players in there that I'm really not a big fan of, in all honesty. But I think maybe John Joe Kenny could be a useful addition as well. I think he looked half decent for Everton at times. But yeah, I hope you prove us wrong, because I do believe that the Bundesliga needs big clubs like Hertha Berlin in the league. But from what I've seen so far, I'm not being overly convinced. But I'd be happy for you guys, them to prove us wrong, that's for sure.
Absolutely.
But, yeah, and also Ballum as well, an interesting little comment as well about, Goetze. Yeah, good reminder, Mario Goetze is back in the Bundesliga. Yeah, the World Cup hero for Germany. Yeah, I think he'll always be loved as well. He's one of those kind of universally loved players in Germany, because obviously of what he did for Germany, the World Cup winner. But yeah, in terms of his performance against Bayern, I didn't find it overly convincing. But obviously it's a bit of a baptism of fire, let's be honest. So the first game back in the Bundesliga against Bayern on that kind of form. But yeah, I do hope, I'd love to see him do better as well. But it'd be interesting to see how he does this season on his return to the Bundesliga. So yeah, any closing comments, Rory, or are we going to kind of sign out?
No, I think we're all good. Good to be back in general. Our shows that we're going to be doing, obviously on a kind of bi-weekly basis, will be more focused on the featured 4. So next week we'll probably just be picking one kind of talking point and going through that. So we just want to keep things fresh for you guys. If there's anything in particular that you'd like to see from us, just ask us and we'll see what we can do. And yeah, we're looking forward to Wednesday, Super Cup, a watch along. Make sure you tune in, because that should be brilliant fun.
Absolutely. So yeah, if you enjoyed what you saw today, then remember to check out our Twitter feed at Over the Bar FB and at Over the Bar Extra. Also check out our main site, which is otvbfootball.net. You know, we've done a lot of work over that over the summer, and we've still got a lot of good articles as well coming out, written by Paul McGarrigy and some other. I think Rory's also written an article recently about the Bundesliga. Do you want to tell us about that one a bit?
Yeah, sure. It's just a quick one in regards to maybe 5 newcomers to the league that are excited to have a quick look at. So, yeah, go to the main site and see which 5 I've chosen. And, yeah, if you agree or disagree.
Absolutely, yeah. And obviously remember to like, comment and subscribe. We are starting to grow at a pretty decent rate that we're quite happy with. But obviously tell your friends if you enjoy what you see. You know, keep checking out our watch-alongs too. And yeah, just keep enjoying the content. And what's been really good recently is a number of comments as well, and very active people we've been getting on. We don't care if you agree or disagree with us. We just want you to interact, and we love talking to like-minded people and Bundesliga fans, and just keep commenting with us. Don't be afraid to disagree with us at times, as well. We're absolutely fine with that. So yeah, it's absolutely great. And as Rory said, check us out as well. We'll be I think 5 to 9 European time, 5 to 8 UK time. We'll be going live on Wednesday to do the watch along, where we'll be kind of giving our views on the game and on what's going to happen. For those of you, especially some of those guys who obviously don't have access to the game live, but also some of you guys might prefer us as alternative commentary to obviously the mainstream commentators as well. So you can also use us as a kind of commentary as you're watching the game. So check us out, and we'll see you there, guys. See you later.
Cheers all.